I'm Jeremy. Today is day 256 of reading. Today we're reading Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Let's get started. Also, I gave a lot of spoiler alerts last time. Anyways, we're on page 275. Was only imposed this year as an extra safety measure. And as his name's come out of the goblet, I don't think there can be any ducking out at this stage. It's down in the rules. You're obliged. Harry will just have to do the best he. The door behind them opened again, and a large group of people came in. Professor Dumbledore, followed closely by Mr. Crouch, Professor Karkaroff, Madame Maxime, Professor McGonagall, and Professor Snape. Harry heard the buzzing of the hundred of students on the other side of the wall before Professor McGonagall closed the door. Madame Maxime, said Fleur at once, striding over to her headmistress. They are saying that this little boy is to compete also. Somewhere under Harry's numb disbelief, he felt a ripple of anger. Little boy? Madame Maxime had drawn herself to her full and considerable height. The top of her handsome head brushed the candle-filled chandelier, and her gigantic black satin bosom swelled. What is the meaning of this, Dumbledore? She said imperiously. I'd rather like to know myself, Dumbledore, said Professor Karkaroff. He was wearing a steely smile, and his blue eyes were like chips of ice. 2 Hogwarts champions? I don't remember anyone telling me that the whole school is allowed 2 champions, or have I not read the rules carefully enough? He gave a short, nasty laugh. C'est impossible? Said Madame Maxime, whose enormous hand, with its many superb opals, was resting upon Fleur's shoulders. Hogwarts cannot have 2 champions. It is most unjust. We were under the impression that your age line would keep out younger contestants, Dumbledore, said Karkaroff, in his steely smile still in place, though his eyes were colder than ever. Otherwise, we would have, of course, brought along a wider selection of candidates from our own school. It's no one's fault but Potter's, Karkaroff, said Snape softly. His black eyes were alight with malice. Don't go blaming Dumbledore for Potter's determination to break rules. He has been crossing lines ever since he arrived here. Thank you, Severus, said Dumbledore firmly, and Snape went quiet, though his eyes still glinted malevolently through his curtain of greasy black hair. Professor Dumbledore was now looking down at Harry, who looked right back at him, trying to discern the expression of the eyes behind the half-moon spectacles. Did you put your name into the Goblet of Fire, Harry? He asked calmly. No, said Harry. He was very aware of everybody watching him closely. Snape made a soft noise of impatient disbelief in the shadows. Did you ask an older student to put into the Goblet of Fire for you? Said Professor Dumbledore, ignoring Snape. No, said Harry vehemently. Ah, but of course he is lying, cried Madame Maxime. Snape was shaking his head, his lip curling. He could not have crossed the age line, said Professor McGonagall sharply. I am sure we are all agreed on that. Dumbledore must have made a mistake with the line, said Madame Maxime, shrugging. It is possible, of course, said Dumbledore politely. Dumbledore, you know perfectly well you did not make a mistake, said Professor McGonagall angrily. Really, what nonsense! Harry could not have crossed the line himself, and as Professor Dumbledore believes, he did not persuade an older student to do it for him. I'm sure that should be good enough for everybody else. She shot a very angry look at Professor Snape. Mr. Crouch, Mr. Bagman, said Karkaroff, his voice unctuous once more. You are our objective judges. Surely you will agree that this is most irregular? Bagman wiped his round, boyish face with a handkerchief and looked at Mr. Crouch, who was standing outside the circle of the firelight, his face half hidden in shadow. He looked slightly eerie, the half-darkness making him look much older, giving him an almost school-like appearance. When he spoke, however, it was in his usual curt voice. We must follow the rules, and the rules state clearly that those whose name come out of the Goblet of Fire are bound to compete in the tournament. Well, Barty knows the rule book back to front, said Bagman, beaming and turning back to Karkaroff and Madame Maxime, as though the matter was now close. I insist upon resubmitting the names of the rest of my students, said Karkaroff. He had dropped his unctuous tone and his smile now. His face wore a very ugly look indeed. You will set up the Goblet of Fire once more. We will continue adding names until each school has 2 champions. It's only fair, Dumbledore. But Karkaroff, it doesn't work like that, said Bagman. The Goblet of Fire has just gone out. It won't reignite until the start of the next tournament, in which Durmstrang will most certainly not be competing, exploded Karkaroff. After all our meetings and negotiations and compromises, I little expected something of this nature to occur. I have half a mind to leave now. Empty threat, Karkaroff, growled a voice from near the door. You can't leave your champion now. He's got to compete. They've all got to compete. Binding magical contract, like Dumbledore said. Convenient, eh? Moody had just entered the room. He limped toward the fire, and with every step he took, there was a loud clunk. Convenient? Said Karkaroff. I'm afraid I don't understand you. Moody? Harry could tell he was trying to sound disdainful, as though what Moody was saying was barely worth his notice. But his hands gave him away. They had balled themselves into fists. Don't you? Said Moody quietly. It's very simple, Karkaroff. Someone put Potter's name in that goblet, knowing he had to compete if it came out. Evidently someone who wished to give Hogwarts 2 bites at the apple, said Madame Maxime. I quite agree, Madame Maxime, said Karkaroff, bowing to her. I shall be lodging complaints with the Ministry of Magic and the International Confederation of Wizards. If anyone's got a reason to complain, it's Potter, growled Moody. But funny thing, I don't hear him saying a word. Why should E complain? Burst out Fleur Delacour, stamping on her foot. E as the chance to compete. As in E, we have all been hoping to be chosen for weeks and weeks. The honor from our schools, 1,000 galleons in prize money. This is the chance many would die for. Maybe someone's hoping Potter is going to die for it, said Moody, with the merest trace of a growl. An extremely tense silence followed these words. Little Bagman, who was looking very anxious indeed, bounced nervously up and down on his feet and said, Moody, old man, what a thing to say. We all know Professor Moody considers the morning wasted if he hasn't discovered 6 plots to murder him before lunchtime, said Karkaroff loudly. Apparently, he is now teaching his students to fear assassination too. An odd quality in the defense against dark arts, teacher. Dumbledore, but no doubt you have your reasons? Imagining things, am I? growled Moody. See things, eh? It was a skilled witch or wizard who put the boy's name in the goblet. What evidence is here of that? Said Madame Maxime, throwing up her huge hands. Because they hoodwinked a very powerful magical object, said Moody. It would have needed an exceptionally strong confundus charm to bamboozle that goblet into forgetting that only 3 schools compete in the tournament. I'm guessing they submitted Potter's name under a 4th school to make sure he was the only one in his category. You seem to have given this a very great deal of thought, Moody, said Karkaroff coldly. And very ingenious theory it is. Though, of course, I heard you recently got it into your head that one of... Thank you, everyone. That's all for today. Bye. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to read page 280. Peace out. Bye-bye.